In an era where we are told that hustle is the only way to succeed, we have forgotten one of the most powerful tools in the human arsenal: stillness. Have you ever felt like your mind is a storm? Like every time you try to solve a problem, you only make it more complicated? You are not alone. Our modern world is designed to keep our mental waters stirred up. We are bombarded with notifications, deadlines, and the constant pressure to fix our lives. But what if I told you that the secret to solving your biggest problems isn't doing more, but doing significantly less? Today, we journey back to ancient India, following the footsteps of the Buddha and his disciples. We will explore a story that seems simple on the surface, but contains a psychological master key to ending anxiety and finding absolute clarity. This is the story of the muddy stream.
Over 2,000 years ago, the Buddha was traveling on foot with a small group of his followers. It was a hot, oppressive day. The sun beat down on the dusty roads, and after hours of walking, the Buddha turned to his loyal disciple, Ananda. "Ananda," the Buddha said softly, "I am thirsty. A little way back, we passed a small stream. Please, take my bowl and bring me some water." Ananda bowed and walked back to the stream. However, when he reached the bank, his heart sank. A bullock cart had just crossed the shallow water. The wheels had churned up the soft mud from the bottom, and the once clear stream was now brown, filled with silt and decaying leaves. It was completely unfit for drinking. Ananda returned to the Buddha and said, "Lord, the water there is very muddy. We cannot drink it. If we walk a little further to the great river, we will find plenty of fresh water." The Buddha looked at Ananda with a calm smile and said, "Go back to the same stream and bring me water." Ananda was confused. He knew the water was dirty. Why would the enlightened one ask for mud? But out of respect, he went back. The water was still just as brown and thick as before. He returned a second time, empty-handed. "Lord, it is impossible. The water is still foul." For the third time, the Buddha looked at him and said, "Go back." Ananda reached the stream for the third time. He sat on the bank, frustrated and tired. But as he sat there, he noticed something. Because he was no longer walking in the water, and because the cart was long gone, the heavy mud was beginning to sink. Slowly, grain by grain, the dirt settled at the bottom. The sunlight began to pierce through the surface. Within minutes, the water was crystal clear. The mud hadn't disappeared, it had simply settled. Ananda filled the bowl and brought it to the Buddha. The Buddha looked at the clear water and then at Ananda. He said, "See what you did? You let it be. You gave it time, and the water became clear on its own. You didn't have to use your hands to filter it. You didn't have to struggle with the mud. You just waited."
This story is a metaphor for the human mind. Think about your own thoughts. When you are stressed, angry, or overwhelmed, your mental water is muddy. Your thoughts are the silt and the dirt that cloud your vision. The mistake most of us make is that we try to fix our thoughts while they are still muddy. We try to think our way out of a problem, but thinking is what stirred up the mud in the first place. When you try to smooth out the waves in a pool of water with your hands, you only create more ripples. In Zen, there is a concept that the more you force a result, the further away it stays. When you are desperate for an answer, your brain is in a state of high beta wave activity. It's chaotic. In this state, the mud of ego, fear, and past trauma is swirling. By sitting on the bank of your mind, meditating, you aren't trying to destroy your thoughts, you are simply allowing them the space to settle. Clarity is not something you create. Clarity is what remains when the interference is gone.
How do we apply this in 2026? The 24-hour rule for emotions. When someone sends you an email that makes your blood boil, your water is muddy. If you respond now, you are responding through the mud. Wait, let the silt settle.
By tomorrow morning, the water will be clear, and your response will be wise, not reactive. The power of non-doing. We're addicted to doing, but sometimes the most productive thing you can do for your career or your relationship is to sit in a room alone for 20 minutes with no phone. Let the thoughts settle. Accepting the mud. Notice that the Buddha didn't tell Ananda to take the mud out of the water. That would be impossible. In life, there will always be mud, problems, critics, and failures. The goal isn't to live a life without mud, it's to have a mind that is still enough that the mud stays at the bottom. The next time you feel overwhelmed, remember Ananda at the stream. Don't go looking for another river. Don't try to fight the water. Just sit, be patient, let it be. The clarity you seek is already there, waiting for the dust to settle. If this story brought you a moment of peace, consider sharing it with someone who is currently struggling with their own muddy water. Subscribe to join our journey into the ancient wisdom of the East. Peace to all beings. Namaste.
Next story: the Zen secret to handling insult and criticism. In a remote village, nestled at the base of a mist-covered mountain, lived an old Zen master. He was a man of profound silence and even deeper peace. People traveled from far-off lands just to sit in his presence, hoping to catch a glimpse of the serenity that seemed to radiate from his very skin. Among his students was a young man who was brilliant but possessed a fiery, impulsive temperament. This young student could understand the most complex sutras, yet he was easily stung by the words of others. If someone praised him, he soared to the clouds. If someone criticized him, he sank into a dark well of anger and resentment. One evening, the student approached the master as the sun dipped behind the jagged peaks. He asked, "Master, I practice meditation every day. I study the words of the Buddha. Yet when someone insults me, my heart burns with rage. I feel the need to defend myself, to prove them wrong, to strike back with words. How can I become like you? How can I remain unmoved when the world throws stones at my character?" The master looked at the boy and smiled. He told him that the next day they would go on a journey. The following morning, they began walking toward a busy market town. As they entered the bustling square, a man who was known for his bitterness and arrogance recognized the Zen master. For reasons known only to himself, this man began to shout. He called the master a fraud, a beggar who lived off the kindness of others, and a fool who taught nothing but nonsense. The crowd went silent. The student's fists clenched. His face turned bright red, and his breath became shallow. He waited for the master to retort, to show his spiritual power, or at least to walk away with a look of stern disapproval. But the master did nothing. He simply stood there, looking at the shouting man with eyes full of kindness, as if he were watching a small child throw a tantrum. After several minutes of relentless insults, the angry man ran out of breath and grew frustrated by the master's lack of reaction. He spat on the ground and stomped away. The student was vibrating with indignation. "Master, how could you let him say those things? You were a great teacher. By staying silent, you let him believe he was right. You let him insult the Dhamma itself." The master continued walking in silence until they reached the edge of a quiet lake. He sat down on a flat stone and gestured for the student to sit beside him. "Tell me," the master began, "if you buy a gift for someone, and that person refuses to accept the gift, to whom does the gift belong?" The student was surprised by the simple question. "It belongs to the person who bought it, master. If it isn't accepted, it stays with the original owner." The master nodded. "Exactly. It is the same with anger. It is the same with insults. If a man offers you a gift of bitterness and you do not accept it, that bitterness remains with him. He is the one who must carry the weight of that gift. He is the one whose heart is poisoned by it. Why would I reach out my hands and take a gift of poison? Why would I make his anger my own?" The student sat in silence, the ripples on the lake reflecting the turmoil in his mind. He began to realize that for his entire life, he had been an acceptor of gifts. Every time someone was rude, he accepted their rudeness. Every time someone was jealous, he accepted their jealousy. He had turned his mind into a warehouse for other people's trash. The master continued, "The world is full of people who are suffering. Anger is a cry for help from a soul that is in pain. When that man shouted at me, he was showing me his internal state. He was revealing his own inner hell. If I had become angry, I would have joined him in that hell. But because I remained in my peace, I remained in my heaven." You see, your peace is your own responsibility. No one can take it from you unless you hand it to them. This philosophy is the law of the empty boat. Imagine you are crossing a river in a small boat. Suddenly, another boat crashes into yours. You look up, ready to scream at the person who was so careless, but you see that the boat is empty. It had simply broken loose from its moorings and drifted into you. In that moment, your anger vanishes. Why? Because there is no one to blame. The boat is empty. Zen teaching tells us that every person who insults you is an empty boat. They are being driven by the winds of their own past traumas, their own insecurities, and their own ignorance. They aren't doing it to you, they are simply doing it. When you realize that the boat is empty, you no longer feel the need to shout back. You simply steer your boat around theirs and continue your journey. True strength is not found in the ability to strike back. Any animal can strike back when it is poked. True human strength is the ability to remain still while the storm rages around you. It is the understanding that your worth is not determined by the opinions of those who do not even know themselves. We live in a world where everyone is obsessed with their image. We spend hours crafting how we want the world to see us. Because of this, we become incredibly fragile. If someone scratches the image, we feel like they have scratched our soul. But the Zen path teaches us to let go of the image. When you have no image to protect, you are invincible. If someone calls you a fool and you know you are not a fool, their words are like wind passing through a screen door. They find nothing to grab onto. Consider the lotus flower. It grows in the mud at the bottom of a murky pond. The water around it is dirty and stagnant, yet when the lotus blooms, its petals are pristine. The mud does not cling to the flower. The lotus does not fight the mud. It simply uses the nutrients from the mud to grow toward the light. You must be like the lotus. Let the mud of the world exist around you, but do not let it enter your heart. The student asked one final question. "Master, does this mean we should never stand up for ourselves? Does it mean we let people walk over us?" The master replied, "There is a difference between being a doormat and being a mountain. A doormat is walked on because it lies flat in the dirt. A mountain is walked on because it is part of the earth, yet its peak touches the sky. You can set boundaries, you can say no, you can walk away from toxic people, but you must do it with a clear mind and a cool heart. If you act out of anger, you have lost. If you act out of wisdom, you have won. Be a mountain. Let the clouds of others' opinions drift around your base, but keep your peak in the sunlight of awareness." As the stars began to appear in the night sky, the student felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He realized that he didn't need to fight the world. He only needed to master himself. The journey of 10,000 miles begins with a single step, and for him, that step was the decision to stop accepting gifts that did not belong to him. In your own life, remember the master and the angry man. The next time someone criticizes you, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this a gift I want to keep? If the answer is no, simply breathe. Let the words drift past you like an empty boat on a wide, silent river. Your peace is your power. Your silence is your shield. Your awareness is your freedom. The path of Zen is not about becoming something different. It is about returning to who you already are before the world told you who to be.
It is about finding that silent center within you that cannot be burned by fire, drowned by water, or harmed by words. Sit in that silence, dwell in that stillness, and realize that in the grand theater of existence, you are the sky, and the insults of others are just passing clouds. The sky remains long after the clouds have vanished. Be the sky, be the mountain, be the still water, and most importantly, let the gifts of anger stay with those who carry them. Your journey is too beautiful to be weighed down by the baggage of others.
Next story. The Master of the Hidden Valley, overcoming the anxiety of the future. In the high, frozen peaks of the Himalayas, where the air is so thin it feels like breathing cold glass, there was once a monastery known as the Place of No Return. It was not called this because it was dangerous, but because those who reached it found such a profound sense of clarity that they never felt the need to return to the chaotic world of men. At the heart of this monastery lived an ancient monk named Bodhi. He was said to be over 100 years old, yet his eyes held the spark of a curious child. One day, a young traveler arrived at the heavy wooden gates. This traveler was a man of great wealth and influence from the city, but his face was lined with a deep, unshakable exhaustion. He had everything the world could offer: gold, land, and power, yet he could not sleep. His mind was a relentless machine, constantly calculating the next move, fearing the next disaster, and trying to control every variable of his existence. He fell at Bodhi's feet and cried, "Master, I am haunted. I am haunted by the ghost of tomorrow. I fear what I cannot see. I fear losing what I have. I am a prisoner of my own worry. Please teach me how to control my life so that I may finally find peace." Old Bodhi looked at the man and did something unexpected. He didn't offer a prayer or a mantra. Instead, he handed the man a small wooden bowl filled to the very brim with water. "Carry this bowl," Bodhi said, "to the top of the cliff overlooking the valley. If you spill a single drop, you must start over from the beginning. When you reach the top, I will give you the secret to controlling your fate." The trial of the heavy hand. The man began his ascent. At first, he was confident. He held the bowl with both hands, his knuckles white with tension. He watched the surface of the water with the intensity of a hawk. He told himself, "I will not let it move. I will be the master of this water." But the path was uneven. Every time a small pebble shifted under his boot, the water would ripple. His heart would race, and the ripple would grow larger because of his own trembling. Halfway up the mountain, a gust of wind caught his cloak. He stiffened his body to resist the wind, and in that moment of rigidity, a splash of water escaped the bowl. Defeated, he returned to the bottom. He tried again and again. For 3 days, the man struggled. He became obsessed. He blamed the wind, he blamed the rocks, and he even blamed the bowl itself. He was exhausted. His muscles were screaming, and his mind was more fractured than ever. On the 4th day, he sat in the dirt and wept. Bodhi approached him and asked, "Why do you struggle so hard?" "Because I must control the water," the man shouted. "If I don't control it, it spills." Bodhi took the bowl from his hands. He held it loosely with just one hand. He began to walk up the path. But Bodhi didn't look at the bowl. He looked at the path. When the wind blew, Bodhi's body swayed with it like a blade of grass. When he stepped on a loose rock, he didn't stiffen. He allowed his ankle to bend, absorbing the shock. The water moved, yes. It swirled and danced within the bowl, but it never spilled. You are trying to freeze the water with your fear. You think control is about making things stay still. But true control is about moving with the flow of change.
You are the water, and the mountain path is your life. If you are rigid, you will break. If you are fluid, you are invincible. The story of the two seeds. As they sat by the cliffside, Bodhi shared a story within a story to deepen the traveler's understanding. He spoke of two seeds lying side by side in the fertile autumn soil. The first seed said, "I want to grow. I want to send my roots deep into the earth and push my sprouts through the crust of the soil. I want to unfurl my buds like banners to announce the arrival of spring. I want to feel the sun on my face and the dew on my petals." And so she grew. The second seed said, "I am afraid. If I send my roots into the dark, I don't know what I will encounter. If I push through the hard soil, I might damage my delicate sprouts. What if a snail tries to eat my buds? What if a child pulls me from the ground? No, it is much safer for me to stay here in the darkness and wait until I can be sure of my safety." A few weeks later, a yard hen scratching in the early spring ground for food found the waiting seed and promptly ate it. The seed that sought to control its safety, Bodhi explained, was the one that was destroyed. The seed that accepted the risk of growth, the risk of the sun and the snail, was the one that became a tree. Your worry is a cage you build around yourself, thinking it is a fortress, but a cage is just a place where life goes to die. The illusion of the horizon. The traveler listened, his heart beginning to soften. "But Master," he asked, "how can I not worry? The world is full of real dangers. If I do not plan, I will fail." Bodhi pointed toward the horizon, where the mountains met the sky. "Look at that line where the earth ends. If you walk toward it, does it ever get closer?" "No," the man replied. "It moves as I move." "That is the future," Bodhi said. "The future is a horizon. It is a mental construct. You are trying to live in a place that doesn't exist. When you are in the future, you are not here. And if you are not here, you cannot handle the reality of the present." Imagine a man walking through a forest at night. He is so worried about the tigers that might be 5 miles ahead that he doesn't see the hole right beneath his feet. He falls and breaks his leg. Was it the tiger that hurt him? No, it was his fear of the tiger that blinded him to the ground he was standing on. The parable of the golden chain. The master then spoke of a king who was so afraid of being robbed that he had a golden chain made to bind his most precious treasure to his own wrist. He could never leave his room. He could never wash properly. He could never hug his children. He was the most powerful man in the kingdom, yet he was the only one who was literally chained to his possessions. Most people, Bodhi whispered, are like that king. Their worries are the golden chains. They think they are protecting their lives, but they are actually strangling them. To be free, you must be willing to let go of the chain. You must realize that you never truly owned the treasure in the first place. It was only on loan to you from the universe. The philosophy of the empty hand. As the sun began to set, casting long purple shadows over the hidden valley, Bodhi gave the man the final lesson. "Go back to your city," Bodhi said, "but do not go back as a master who tries to rule his life. Go back as a guest. A guest doesn't worry about the furniture in the house he is visiting. He doesn't worry if the roof leaks or if the seasons change. He enjoys the meal while it is served, and when it is time to leave, he leaves without looking back. Your anxiety comes from the belief that you are the doer. You think you are pulling the strings of the universe, but you are just a small part of a grand dance. The stars move without your help. The seasons change without your permission. Your heart beats without your command. If the universe can handle the stars and the seasons, can it not handle your life?" The man stood up.
For the first time in years, his shoulders dropped. The tension in his jaw vanished. He looked at the wooden bowl, still half full of water. He turned it over and let the water pour onto the dry earth. "I no longer need to carry this," he said. "Now," Bodhi smiled, "you are ready to live." The modern echo, applying stillness. In our modern world, we are all like that traveler. We carry bowls of water through the rocky paths of careers, relationships, and social expectations. We think that if we just grip the bowl a little tighter, we can prevent a crisis, but the crisis is the grip itself. The Zen path teaches us that clarity comes from a radical acceptance of what is. It doesn't mean we don't work or plan. It means we do those things without the frantic energy of fear. We act, but we are not attached to the result. When you sit in silence today, visualize your worries as that water. Stop trying to keep it still. Let it ripple. Let it splash. Realize that you are the container, not the water. The container remains, no matter how much the water moves. As you move forward, remember the three truths of the hidden valley. Fluidity is strength. The rigid branch breaks in the storm. The supple bamboo bends and survives.